Hi, I'm Katherine Austin, and welcome to Living Karma Yoga, a show where we celebrate all that the yoga world has to offer, from the postures to music, mantra, meditation, travel, cooking, and so much more. We hope you find here many tools to help you live the life you deserve. And that's a life where you can literally vibrate love, joy, fulfillment, and abundance in all forms. Today on this show, we're going to explore Bowen work. And this is a good friend of mine, Regina Townsend. She's been doing Bowen work for over 13 years. She started practicing yoga in the 1970s and has always been a yoga enthusiast. She feels that Bowen work can take yogis deeper in their yoga practice by removing blockages in the mind, body, spirit. Removing these blockages will then allow energy to flow freely and makes yoga practice more meaningful. Reggie and I met at Karma Yoga and enjoy both a personal and professional friendship. Bowen work involves gentle yet powerful moves on muscles, tendons, and nerves, and these moves prompt soft tissue release, sending neurological impulses to the brain, because the impulses travel through the internal nervous system pathways. And then they stimulate the whole brain responses, which address every system in the body, internal organ systems as well as the muscular skeletal structure. And I know that sounds like a mouthful as we get started, but it's a great segue into this work that I actually have been quite a long time participant now of. I'd probably say 4 years I've been coming to you for this work. Yes. And you know, I have many years, 18 years plus in yoga, and where yoga has done tremendous healing for me and clearing and purifying, there was something that it wasn't touching for me. Perhaps like I felt like it was clearing my emotional body. It wasn't quite getting that as clear as it could be. And then when God brought you into my life, I want to just say that because it really was divine. You really helped get to the really deep stuff in me, and we've just been enjoying that ever since. So welcome to the show today. And
I appreciate you saying that because I saw that change in you when I first started working in the first session. It was an amazing opening, and that's what Bowen will do. It will take someone who has experienced maybe a great deal of yoga or exercise or work on their own in other areas of their life. All of a sudden, new doors open and new opportunities to heal places that they never knew were still blocked or experiencing energy loss.
Well, you know what I like about Bowen is just it's non-invasive. It's even for the person that may be uncomfortable to have a massage because they have to get undressed. With Bowen work, you don't get undressed.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Can you give us a little like hands-on view of maybe what Bowen work is and then why it's done with clothes on? And
Sure. The reason I practice Bowen work with a patient or client dressed is because of what you just said. Some people are uncomfortable getting undressed, and other times they're in a hurry. They don't want to have to undress and then dress again before they go on to the next thing in their life. Or maybe there's a personal reason they're unable to move easily to undress. So I think it's best to just work that way. My practice also involves working on dogs and horses, and they're in their skin and their fur, and there's no taking that off in order to execute the work. It's the same thing, the clothing that a person comes in, if it's comfortable and natural for them to wear, they experience the work without the confinement of something stopping them.
So I love when I come because it's so relaxing. I can't believe where you shift me every session. I can barely drive home. And I'm like, what is she doing? She's just like moving her hands a little bit on my body here and there. And yet there is a system, obviously, and a very deep technique. And you've had how many years of study?
Well, I've been working with this technique for almost 13 years. And with that has also been the journey of discovery, because with the education that I've had in the Bowen Academy of Australia throughout the United States, I've also experienced a great deal of personal growth based on the things that I've worked with my clients and discovered. So it's always evolving into a better practice. That's why it's called a practice. It's every
like
single
yoga.
time I do it, it's a remarkable journey with the person and with myself, uncovering, like solving a mystery, finding out what it is that makes a person the way that they are and helps them to evolve into what they want to be. So it's a great opportunity in that way. As you mentioned, you know, the couple of things that I do, the way Bowen work happens is the person in my practice comes in and gets comfortable lying on a table that is padded and secure. And then I do one or two very light, almost like wave hitting the shore, rolls over the connective tissue. The fascia is the fancy word for that.
And you're using like your thumbs,
my thumbs
right?
or my forefingers in a very specific placed position. And with very light touch after an exhale, I execute the move almost like a wave that crests and comes down over.
Right, it's what it feels like.
That's what it is. And with that, I stand back and allow the person a chance to integrate that message full body. It's not just where I touch that it affects, but as you were mentioning before, it goes through the network of the system of
I can
fascia.
feel it ripple out through my whole body.
That's
you know,
the
when
most
you first
amazing thing.
do a move, I'm like, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa.
Well, you think about, for example, how energy moves through your body in an example of static electricity. When you're in the wintertime and you're wearing socks and you rub your feet against a carpet and then walk up to something else, through your body the energy passes and comes out of the finger when you touch a surface or a person or something. That little spark that happens is that traveling from your feet through this network, it comes out. It finds an exit point. Well, the same thing happens on the Bowen table. When I do one or two spots, I stimulate the fascia, and the fascia is a protein complex that sends messages through itself. So every piece of fascia around every single cell in the body is aware of the movement of any part.
Right.
You just do a little tiny bit and the entire thing lights up, as I call it. I watch it happen. I see people change, their breathing changes. And what happens is when they arrive at my session with them, they've driven there, they've had to follow a set of planned moves to get to where they are on time. They're worried, they don't know if they're going to be on time, they don't know if they're going to experience something wonderful. It's a brand new chance for them to experience something. And within minutes, within 2 minutes of the first time I touch them, all of a sudden they've changed from the fight and flight survival, get there on time, autonomic nervous system, which is also called the sympathetic, and they convert into the parasympathetic, which is rest, relax, repair, and regrow. It is in the parasympathetic, when we're asleep, that we grow fingernails and hair and new blood cells and new bones and that kind of thing. And when someone's been going through trauma, which is defined as anything that's life-threatening, they can't sleep or they feel stress. That experience in the body prevents them from getting fully into the parasympathetic and allowing that resetting, regrowing, and relaxation that they need in order to be healthy. So, as with yoga, there's a conversion that occurs within the system of the person, and it allows the person to once again realize what they're meant to be. And with yoga, it's the same kind of thing. After practicing, you can't just go for one yoga session and feel perfectly well from it. You have to evolve through that process. To keep integrating. It's the same thing with Bowen work. One session is just not going to be enough, but it will start the process and cause a change that is noticeable within the person to change their life. And I've just been so excited about it. I wanted to share it with everyone because I realized that from infants to the elderly, there's a huge transformation.
I like what you're saying about the movements, because that's exactly what they feel like. You're flipping a switch in me and creating a repair. And if someone was new to Bowen, they might find it odd how you literally exit the room.
Exactly.
And they're like, where did she go? Why is she leaving? But that's to allow you to self-heal, self-repair. You literally get out of their energy field, right?
Exactly.
So they can have an experience of the healing, and it takes a little bit for the rewiring and the integrating. And
right, and what you're saying is precisely what happens. The integration, the actual change that occurs happens when I'm not touching them.
Right.
So,
like you flip the switch
and I
for
walk
it to
away.
go, and then you walk away.
And that's the hardest part for people the first time to understand. So I always call the first visit the curiosity session, because they're curious about what's going to happen and why I'm leaving and why I come back when I do and what's going to happen next.
And by the second session, they just totally let go and
absolutely.
They trust. The other thing I thought was interesting about Bowen work, and you had to teach me this, was that I should come to you when I'm sick or when I am having a problem, because that's exactly what Bowen work does, is helps me get better. And it did. You know, I had a sinus thing or something. You know, in a massage, you don't want to go because you don't want to get the masseuse sick, and they actually ask you not to come when you're sick. Opposite for you, because you can help me get better much faster.
It boosts the immune system.
Right.
So when you're boosting the immune system for someone who's already ill, there's nothing better for helping to heal them. The other thing that we'll do with Bowen work is it allows the release of old water from the cells and the bringing into the cells the new water. So it's sort of suggested every time to drink as much water after a session as possible for the next 24, 48 hours, and hopefully drink good water, clean water, that will be put into your body in a way that changes the way you feel. When you have great water in your system, you think more clearly, you feel more connected to yourself, and you understand that holistic thing that is really what people are talking about when they talk about alternative or holistic healing experiences.
So someone can come to you for like an all-over body tune-up, or they can come with specific issues, and you can even focus on those, right?
Right.
And you also say you work on babies. You worked on my dog. I loved it. One time you came over, you worked on him in the kitchen, and he was like... And then I met your 100-year-old patient or client that comes too. What do you do for someone that age even?
Well, for her in particular, because she spends a lot of time not running around, because she is an elder person, it gives her a sense of circulation and wholeness to her systems, and allows her to stand more straight and to experience the blood flow in her body in a way that's not putting pressure on her system, but allowing it just to naturally unfold the way it's supposed to be, providing nutrition and circulation to all parts, her feet and her hands. And I might not even work on that part of her, but I send the messages through, and that gives her a great sense of relief from pain and other things.
Now, I met her. I wouldn't have thought she was 100 years old.
No.
That's what was surprising.
Well, part of that is who she is, but it's the work that I do, the fact that she understands it after her long, wonderful life and gets benefits from it, is a great testimonial to the work itself. But as you said, you know, working on babies as well, I've worked on pregnant people, and the variety of different conditions that people come to me with, whether it's, you know, jaw issues from clenching their teeth at night, or migraines, or shoulder problems, or hips and backs and knees, those kinds of things, as well as people with MS and who can't get a massage because that makes it worse, or other people with conditions that are very sensitive to the touch, fibromyalgia.
This is perfect for them.
Absolutely, because it doesn't use a great deal of pressure, and it still affects so much of the body.
Great. Well, of course, we've run out of time, but I want to thank you so much for coming on today. And
it's my
we'll
pleasure.
get your information out on the website so anybody can get in contact with you to make an appointment.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. I want to thank Reggie for being my guest today. And we're going to take a little break and stay with us, because Kate Smith is coming up soon to give us an Ayurvedic cooking class from her home. Thanks. I'm here with Kate Smith today for another mini Ayurveda cooking lesson. She's an Ayurveda team member and our Ayurvedic chef on staff. And today we're going to learn about ghee, which is a definite Ayurvedic staple in the kitchen.
Oh, so true, Kath. Ghee is like an elixir in Ayurveda. It's like the cure-all. And what ghee actually is somewhat like clarified butter, where all the milk and all the water is cooked out of the actual butter.
Right.
So we'll talk about it a little bit as we make ghee. First, you start with 4 sticks of whole organic butter. And you just want, over a medium to high heat, to bring the butter to a small, subtle boil and then turn it down to a simmer. So we're going to let that happen for a little while, and we're going to watch it as it melts. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the ritual of cooking ghee. And ghee is a mindful experience, and it's an experience that brings us into the kitchen in a quiet way. So we never really leave the ghee pot. And it's actually said that the optimal way and the optimal time to make ghee is at the new moon. We call it new moon ghee. And there's a story about ghee that the Sikhs and the sages gathered the monks around the new moon and called them all from their duties and their chores and their, faraway renunciate caves, or, and said, come and gather and be with the sound of the cooking ghee. Be in quiet. Be in silence, so that they could be with the new moon and cultivate stillness and cultivate awareness. And I love that because it helps me to cultivate stillness and cultivate awareness. When I come into the kitchen and I do most of my cooking, I'm cooking quietly in silence. And that's not to say that there aren't times where everybody's around and the game is on or somebody's listening to music. But when I'm really preparing food, I'm preparing it in silence.
It's really a sacred event.
It's a sadhana, right? So listen. You can hear the ghee starting to bubble. And the Sikhs and the sages said that it's like rain on the roof.
It does sound like that.
Doesn't it?
I love that.
And as the ghee cooks and the butter begins to boil and the milk fat is cooked out of it and the water evaporates, the rain actually quiets down till it's like a plop, right? And that's when you know the ghee is done.
And making ghee is so easy. A lot of people are afraid to do it, and you can buy it in a jar in the store, but it's so different when you're putting your energy and your love to it. And I like this little ritual of being here for about 20 minutes while my ghee is making.
Right, because you're watching it transform from something very solid into something very liquid, and by the way, back to being solid again, because the finished product is actually a solid product. So you want to turn the heat down when it does start to boil, because you don't want to burn the ghee, but you want to wait until it's a very beautiful golden color. So, when you opened, you said it's the staple, and the reason it's the staple is because there's so many medicinal qualities to ghee. The reason it's in elixir is because it's so healing. It has many, many healing properties. It's the revered medium of bringing the nutrients of food to our body, to our tissues.
Right.
So it oleates our body, it oils our body.
Very healthy.
It's very, very healthy. And the reason it's revered in cooking, in Ayurvedic cooking, is for many, but for just a couple, is because it balances body and mind. So it promotes longevity. It helps with memory, which is really cool. It has vitamin A. It has beta carotene. It is, and I don't know, I think it might even be an antioxidant.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I read that.
And you can use it externally as well to oil your feet and to give yourself a massage. You could even use it in your nose to oil the insides of your nostrils, to clean it, to cleanse it. So it really has many, many healing properties.
For my digestion, ghee is a big staple because I have a slower digestion. So it really helps just make everything move so much easier in my body.
At the same time, it's helping your digestion, but it's not firing your digestion.
Correct.
And that's the beauty of ghee. It seems to have so many paradoxical ways of working together. It's actually cooling, but it can help to eliminate. So it's very fascinating. So here's the rain. I don't know if the cameras can pick it up and hear it. but the milk fat starts to come to the top.
It sounds like monsoon season in Southern Carolina.
There you go.
In India.
Right. So it has a very high heating point, but a very low melting point. So it'll melt fairly quickly,
right,
but it'll take time for it to burn. That's why it's also so wonderful for cooking.
Right.
And there's no hydrogenated oils, no trans fatty fats, again, adding to longevity. And some chefs actually, some Ayurvedic chefs, stick their spoon in the ghee to release the vapor.
Oh, I've never heard that. All the years I've been cooking it. Okay.
But you really don't want to play or touch the ghee too much. But I'm guilty of moving.
I do too.
Yeah, I think I learned that from you, actually. Right. We've made
I was
ghee.
told that's okay.
Oh. Well, we're modern, and we're going to put our little modern spin on it. But we want it to get to be a golden brown. And like I said, it does take about 15 minutes. And in the quiet of your home, at any season, but if it works out that it's the new moon, to make new moon ghee is really a treat. My favorite food, one of my favorite foods, I'll confess, is popcorn. But it's not so great for my digestive system because I have a pretty dry system.
Right.
Well, I pop my popcorn in ghee. So it's a little bit more easy to digest.
So you recommend that we stay by the pan. It's part of the sadhana.
We do.
And for those 15 or 20 minutes till we see, the ghee really happening.
Yep. We want to wait until the ghee is clear. And actually, a little ghee guru, I think it was you, told me that one of the tricks is being able to see all the way down into the bottom of your pan.
It'll become really clear.
Really, really, really clear. But you want to stay with it because it is a mindful practice and because you don't want the ghee to burn. And it could burn like that.
Right.
So you want to tend to it.
It keeps you by the stove. You can't multitask, get distracted by other things.
Exactly. And that's why it's lovely for it to be quiet. You don't want to be making something else while you're making ghee. It's a singular, mindful practice. And it brings you back to yourself. It's a reflection of purity, reflection of yourself. It's kind of neat to have Dhanvantari, which is the Hindu goddess of the kitchens. He came rising out of the sea with the elixir of the gods, and here we are cooking one of the many elixirs. You hear it, it's still raining, so you know that we have time for it to go. So all the milk fat is coming up to the surface and all the water is evaporating. And I could go on and on about the medicinal properties of ghee, but what's really cool is to know that ghee keeps for a really long time. And you don't keep it in the refrigerator. You keep it on a shelf. And in India, they say that the longer ghee sits, the more medicinal the properties are of ghee. You could find a 100-year-old jar of ghee in an Ayurvedic practitioner's pantry, even hidden away in a cave.
Wow.
So that's really cool. So
didn't you say the medicinal properties are really good for people that are dairy intolerant?
Yeah, because people who are dairy sensitive, since the milk is being cooked out of it, the sensitivity isn't as great. So
we're almost there.
We are there. It's a little bit foamier, but we're not going to let it burn. So what we're going to do, since it's a gas stove actually, we are going to take it off the stove. Because with a gas stove, the heat comes up before it comes down, and the ghee would bubble way up again before it came down. And we're just going to let it sit for a couple of minutes as it cools. And come on over. We're going to pour it through a cheesecloth into a clean, sterile glass jar. And this is a lovely thing. This was once a store-bought jar of ghee. So this size jar of store-bought ghee will house a 1 pound.
I know, it's such a perfect
It's a perfect fit. And when the ghee is done, I made some last night, this is what it looks like.
Beautiful. That
Nutty.
rich and golden color.
Smell. So it's got a really, really nutty flavor and a really nutty smell.
I literally use my ghee every day. for something.
Right. So remember the spice box in one episode that we were talking about, the masala daba?
Right.
Well, those spices can be actually cooked into the ghee for medicinal purposes, and it's called medicinal ghee.
Right.
And Ayurvedic practitioners and women in India give their children a teaspoon or a tablespoon, whatever their practitioner recommends, of medicinal ghee. You know, it's cooked in turmeric, or maybe the practitioner recommended, you know, a combination of spices,
Right.
and those go into the ghee. And that's kept on the shelf for medicinal purposes. It's really cool.
Amazing.
So, let's get the ghee. I think it's
Okay.
cooled down a little.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And we'll just very carefully come over to our cheesecloth.
And that's going to catch all those milk solids or the foam that's left.
Yeah,
And it's always a perfect fit. I love that.
it's crazy. So go buy yourself some store-bought ghee, and then you'll have a perfect jar. And you just lift up the sides of the cheesecloth, like so, and you can see the beautiful golden liquid. And you're done.
Beautiful.
You wait till it cools completely. It's a little hot. You put your lid on. You store it in a dark place. And tomorrow, it'll look just like this.
Oh, it smells so good.
Doesn't it? Let's make popcorn.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you for joining us today, and a special thanks to my guests, REGGIE Townsend and Kate Smith, for her brilliant Ayurvedic cooking as usual. If you'd like to learn more about us, you can come to our website at www.karma-yoga.net. Namaste.